Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to ShoutCraft America, where hopefully everything isn't broken anymore. We've got the third series coming in after a lengthy delay. Been looking forward to this one. If you want to watch some TVP action, then what better way to do it than watch these two guys? We've got Minigun and Drunkenboi on the line before their best of 5. Minigun, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks.
How's it been going for you today?
Pretty good. Just been watching the cast. Been enjoying myself.
I've been surprised you've been able to watch the cast, considering it's barely been streaming properly, but...
Well, when it's up, I have.
Yeah, when it works, it's been absolutely fantastic. Drunkenboi, welcome back to the show after your exceptional performance in your group.
Yo, what's up?
It went pretty well for you, didn't it? You were one of the 2 players to actually go through your group 4-0. Were you expecting that to happen, or did you just find the groove that day?
I was pretty confident that day.
Okay, that's good to see. You actually did end up knocking your teammate down to the lower bracket there. Do you feel like a horrible person yet?
Not really. It's just fun and games for us.
It's good to know. So, Minigun, you actually bragged in Group A that your PvT was your strongest matchup right now. Would you still say that's the case?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. Drunkenboi, you did get a chance to take on Terran and Zerg in your group. You didn't get to touch Protoss, so how are you feeling about that?
On ladder, it's my best matchup apparently, and it's his worst, I think, this season.
Really?
So it should be like easy.
Really?
Yeah. Minigun,
Think
have you forgotten how to play PvT? Was there some kind of strange brain aneurysm that you suffered there, or is everything okay?
I thought it was going pretty well.
It says
I guess
48%.
Ooh.
No way.
He's breaking the stats out, man. You can't let him get away with that.
I haven't played him enough, apparently, then.
All right, okay. Right, well, so, Minigun, we already saw, unfortunately, one Root player get knocked out, a fellow Root Protoss by the name of Puck. However, Kane just advanced, so are you intending to be the second Root player in the round of 4? Will you avenge your fallen Protoss comrade?
Oh, it'll be me and Kane in the finals, for sure.
Ah, okay. That would be interesting to watch. Drunkenboi, you have gained some notoriety lately because you performed really well in your qualifiers, and also in Group C, Group B, in fact, you put on an exceptional performance. So, what do you have to say to your newly acquired fans out there?
Just thanks for the support, and a lot of like the tips really helped me out.
Very, very cool.
Really appreciate it.
Remember, guys, you can tip the players if you like what they say, or you like what they do, or you don't like what they do. You can throw money at them. That's probably not a very good way of dealing with it, but I would recommend it anyway. ShoutCraft.com is the place to go. Click the tip jar button, and then you can donate however much you want. Every little bit helps these guys. So, Minigun, any final words for Drunkenboi before we get into this?
Just apologize in advance for having to 3-0 him.
Drunkenboi.
You might have to retire after getting wrecked.
It might happen. It very well might. We'll see. Okay, guys, thank you very much. To your stations, and we will get ready to kick off this best of. Go. Go, go, go. Let's make this work, please. And here we are. It seems like only yesterday that we were seeing this map intro. God damn it. And here we are. Thank God. Here's hoping that it actually works. Alright, folks. Welcome to Acheron Wastes for the 17th time today. It is ROOTMinigun in the Red Trunks playing Protoss to the northwest versus his opponent. It is FXODrunkenboi in the Blue Trunks playing Terran to the south. No. God. Oh, God damn it. No, he's okay. He's okay. He's okay. God.
Oh, no. It's like a heart attack every time it glitches.
It really, really is as well. It's like... Well, we keep asking for land, but apparently we don't need it, so...
The technology is not there.
No, it is not. It is
we have resume for replay, so it doesn't matter if people disconnect, because we can just go back into the game.
Yeah, totally not. It's, the downtime's clearly not an important factor, and neither is the lag for pro players, so they're totally fine with that.
Yep. Makes it more exciting. It's like another challenge. It's like, you know, you have to calibrate your control to the amount of lag you're experiencing.
Indeed.
It's what really separates the good players from the great players.
You know, there's more truth to that than you actually make it out. I know it's a joke, but at the end of the day, you see a lot of players having to do just that. And as a direct result, they have there's some weird play styles for players that play on a lot of different servers and have to deal with lag. You'll often see the less micro-intensive playstyles put to the side for use on their home server, and then these different builds that they'll use on, say, Korea or Europe.
Oh yeah, people massively underestimate the difference it makes. Like back in Brood War, when we finally got Icy Cup, which allowed foreigners to practice on low latency online, the jump in performance at lands was massive because no foreigners could really practice like that before. And so just a huge increase in skill, like very visible the next WCG after that happened. It's just a night and day difference.
Yeah, it's just a shame we don't have that option anymore, isn't it?
Indeed it is.
Yes, indeed. I'll never let it go, Blizzard. I'm never letting it go. I've told you about this before. Oh, well. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to be budging on that. Oh, maybe when Legacy of the Void comes out and they stop selling copies of the game, maybe then we get it. Here's hoping that people are still interested in it by that point.
I would be surprised by that.
Indeed.
But from Drunkenboi, we actually see a Reaper opening. This has become pretty much the standard TVP in the last month or so. I'm going to Reaper expansion, then just up to... well, then it can vary from there. He can go either a bunch of drop harass, he can go some kind of tech route, or he can just go quick +1, then 3 barracks and into standard play from there. So as soon as this CC goes down, we're going to have to watch what its follow-up is. But that Reaper's just going to go in there and scout. It's going to see nothing too particular from Minigun. Minigun really seems to be a big fan of the Mothership Core expansion, which is a very nice solid build. We see 2 probes on each gas, so it seems likely that that will be the case.
Now, Drunkenboi also elected to scout with an SCV here as well. Why do you think that he would use an SCV when he has a Reaper?
I honestly don't know. He does the same thing TBZ when he opens up Reaper. He sends the SCV in anyway. It gets the same information, maybe about 15 seconds earlier. Makes 0 sense to me. We're going to have to ask him that if he makes it into another interview.
That would be nice.
It really seems nonsensical to me.
Yeah, it's weird. I've seen players do it when they're going like something funky like Double Reaper, or even when they're doing a proxy play, because you can use it to push units back, you can force the player to micro, you can even try and get a bunker down, but that's not what he does. Drunkenboi is going to pick himself up a probe here, which is always a nice little win, and he's going to play Kite the Zealot, which is a great game, fun for all the family, unless they happen to be Protoss, and now he gets pretty much all the information he could require before he is pushed away by that Stalker.
Yeah, that Reaper was actually massively profitable. Not only to get a probe kill, he delayed the Nexus for another 150 minerals or so, which is a pretty big difference. He also gets all the scouting information he could want. So really paid off there. We see his command center going down, his factory coming down. Mothership Core actually out there to scout, so both players will play with full information on each other for at least some time.
Yep, and he managed to get into the base again, which really shouldn't have happened. He might be able to get himself another probe kill here. Now, he's pulling it back. Nice control here by Minigun, and the Reaper's days, I think, are numbered, but it's somehow going to get out again because he's a sneaky little bastard, and now is probably the time when he needs to consider a change in career.
Yeah, he really needs to keep that alive, because you need to keep that alive for at least another minute or two, and then suicide in once Protoss has chosen their tech.
Yeah.
We see that Minigun is putting up the Robobane and the other 2 gateways, so again, just totally standard. But now is the point where Drunkenboi really wants to go in there and see that, because if you don't keep the Reaper alive, if you do lose it early on, you can be caught off guard by any number of all-ins. But he should see this, see everything's totally standard, and he doesn't have to worry about anything.
Yep, gets out again as well, and nice positioning by Drunkenboi just to be able to grab in there and spot that robotics facility, then dart out before anything happens. So that Reaper has definitely been very useful indeed. So let's have a look at Drunkenboi's base, because what we are actually seeing is a starport on a tech lab here, as well as double marine production and a Raven coming out.
Yeah, that's kind of odd. Very quick Raven, also a very quick engineering bay, so going to be going for an upgrade behind it.
Yep.
And adding more barracks now, so it looks like he'll be just transitioning into a normal game with that very quick Raven. I kind of like that. That's going to give it a lot of time to build up energy. It's going to probably have 2 spells available whenever he has to use it. It'll also allow him to run around shooting down observers. It's just a nice little additional utility to have early on when you know you don't need to invest those resources in a kind of defensive, immediately effective unit.
Yeah, it's nice, and I think the Raven usage has definitely got more popular in Heart of the Swarm thanks to the changes when it comes to its particular spells. Drunkenboi does need to sober up a little bit when it comes to his internet, I'm afraid. I'm hoping that doesn't affect him in the big fights there. Another barracks coming down here as well. Factory's not really being used for anything right now. There's actually a couple of add-ons lying around the place. There's another tech lab here, so I guess Drunkenboi's going to leap on that, and then he can start his stim or his combat shield. He's already kicked into his +1 here. There's a second Raven coming out.
Yeah, that's very strange. That one, I don't understand. Having one around for utility, you drop a couple of PDDs, that protects your Vikings from the Stalkers. Maybe a couple of Hunter-Seeker missiles if there's a pack of units or something. But to have 2 of them seems like a really big gas expenditure. And gas isn't the biggest deal right now. The bigger deal is actually the starport time. He's not getting any medevacs. He's not getting any Vikings. He doesn't even have a reactor ready for the starport. And those are much more important than the Raven in generic, at least, TVP builds. So I'm not sure if he has something special planned out for this. He is capable of strange builds that no one will see coming, so can't write that off. But it does seem like a strange choice thus far.
It's very odd indeed. He surely will not build a third one. That would be very, very strange indeed. There's the swap around. So he's playing musical chairs with his barracks right now. He's going to put that one down on the tech lab. He then, or maybe not. There we go. Just getting that lined up. Yes, I often miss that. It's really, really annoying. But the starport is now going to be building double medevacs here. And these two Ravens, as you said, very, very odd, but they are denying observer coverage. If he was controlling that observer, he would have seen the two Ravens and thought, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's really... He better have something special in mind, because Minigun, on the other hand, is playing just absolute standard. He's going straight up to Colossus. And that means that the lack of Vikings, the lack of starport units, is really, really going to hurt. Because if you don't have at least like 3 or 4 Vikings per Colossus, you're kind of going to get obliterated unless he finds a way to make up for it with those Ravens. And just right off the bat, I'm not sure how he's going to do that.
No.
And he is now starting up Viking production, but that sticks him at 2 medevacs, which just limits him in so many ways. He can't drop rest. He doesn't have as much healing. I don't know. It's a very strange choice, but I'm very curious to see what he tries to do with it.
Yeah,
he will have 2 full mana Ravens when any kind of engagement happens, and that's quite a bit to work with.
Yeah, it is. If it's a Stalker heavy play, of course, and there is Blink coming in here as well, then he will be able to place down a significant number of point defense drones. Hunter Seeker, I definitely wouldn't call that a particularly useful thing, considering what he's up against there. It's a Stalker heavy army, which means that it's generally more spread out than a Zealot heavy army would be. So the Hunter Seekers are a fairly large expenditure of energy for very little gain in that situation. You definitely can't kill Colossus with them either. And as you said, there's like 2 Colossus. And is he pulling SCVs? He's pulling SCVs with it. Here they come. All right, well, the engagement is coming in right now. We're going to see how useful these Ravens are. That Colossus was caught completely out of position. The PDD's in play, and oh, look, it's a Stalker-heavy army that can't shoot. That's not very useful, but that single Colossus is doing work, and it's not dying very quickly either. Raven now taken out. Bit of miscontrol there by Drunkenboi. He loses both of the Ravens in the process, and as entertaining as this was, I'm not entirely convinced by it.
Yeah, and he actually moved his army back into the time stops. Oh, and a really nice move by Minigun. No medevacs to ferry it up there, so he actually runs up in. But he's going to get caught again on the way out, and this really weird composition by Drunkenboi is going to work. He's caught all the units, he's killed everything for the cost of the 2 Ravens, but not much else.
Yeah, it's really, really nice, isn't it? It's so strange, but I guess if... Oh, and Minigun just GG's immediately. Yeah.
That was so weird.
That was just bizarre, and we can go through it step by step and figure out exactly how it happened. The first biggest thing I'd like to point out is the fact that there was that second Colossus was actually caught away from the rest of the army.
Yeah, and that actually turned out kind of working in Minigun's favor. He lost a lot of that DPS, but he actually pulled off a big chunk of the army, but then he wasn't able to capitalize on it. He wasn't able to kill the segmented portion. And so it just ended up being 1 Colossus instead of 2 Colossus. And then he also lost the pylon, including the four warpins he had going at the time. So he had no reinforcements, and just a much smaller army than he was supposed to. But overall, the timing, just everything about Minigun's play was quite weird. I think what happened is he saw the 2 Ravens. He was like, I was going Colossus anyway. He's going to have less Vikings. This is a counter situation for me. I should go take advantage of that. But at the same time, he didn't think about the fact that with a Colossus build, he's going to be very Stalker heavy. And as you said, PDDs, Stalkers can't shoot.
Yeah, well, it was weird to see, because usually if you see the Colossus in play, you see melting bio. It wasn't melting. It was pretty Marauder heavy, which was great, and it was also a situation where with the point defense drones down, the only thing that was shooting was that 1 Colossus, which actually is not that great, especially if you happen to be well positioned. And it was a nice move by Minigun to kind of blink away and use the cliff walking ability of the Colossus, but at that point, Drunkenboi is saying to himself, all right, time to really get in there and actually do some damage. And it worked out beautifully for him. It was a strange build, very much, I think, a researched build.
It definitely seemed like it. He either got very lucky or it was very researched, and he knew that Minigun always opens up with those quick 2-base Colossus and then a lot of Stalker support, and then transitions out of it. Because, like you said, very Marauder heavy. Marauder heavy, obviously better against the Colossus and against the Stalkers.
Yep.
Not a whole ton of Marines for the Colossus to shoot down. And then, of course, the Raven opening. I'm not sure if he actually has a way more knowledge than we do of him and knew that he would make that kind of attack. Because all of the PvTs I've seen of Minigun, he's played much more conservatively early on, and I don't know if that would have worked quite as well for Drunkenboi, but that attack just played right into Drunkenboi's hands.
It was slick, and it's nice to see a little bit of a new build there. That is something I've not seen before, and it seemed to work in that very specific scenario quite nicely. Really, really cool to see the Ravens actually out. We're just going to get you into the game lobby, and we'll be going to Game 2 momentarily here. It's going to be on Belshire Vestige. This is, of course, Minigun's choice.
Yeah, I would be very surprised to see a similar build out of Drunkenboi. That doesn't seem like something that's going to be a every game go-to, but after something that creative and weird and effective, I'd be really curious to see what else he has cooked up for this, and if Minigun stays with his tried and true, or if he's going to try and shake things up too.
Yeah, that was... I'm just so glad to have seen that. That was really cool.
I really like Ravens just because the Science Vessel is my favorite unit in Brood War, and then Raven's kind of the replacement for it. And
Will is a minigun again, aren't we? God
yeah,
damn.
we are.
Yeah. All right. Well, the admin's just like, fuck this, I'm out. All right, we're going to take a quick break, folks, while we attempt to set this lobby up again. We are having some ridiculous BattleNet issues today. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're trying the lobby again. I know, it's so impetuous. Let's see if it works. Good lord, I hope it does.
We gotta tell Minigun not to touch anything again.
Minigun timed out again. It's just like, I don't even know what's going on right now. And unfortunately, we lost one of our foreign language casters as well because they simply didn't have the time to keep casting today. But thank you very much for Pedroca, by the way, for casting today. It's been absolutely phenomenal to see these guys come out in support of the foreign language scene. That's wonderful. And here we are on Belshire Vestige, and we have ROOTMinigun in the Red Trunks playing Protoss to the southeast versus his opponent who pulled the boys in the previous game, so he claims. He is in the Blue Trunks playing Terran to the northwest. He is FXODrunkenboi. And that was wacky, weird, and obviously prepared for a very specific kind of minigun play.
I would hope so. If that's his normal TVP, then things are going to be quite interesting for the rest of the games. Is pull the boys like his thing? I don't think I've ever seen him say that before.
I've never heard him say that at all. I think he's just showboating right now, but I have definitely never... I know drunken drops is supposedly a thing that someone came up from. I don't think that's even his phrase, but didn't drop at all that game. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. That's what happens when you like build no medevacs, but hey, that was a weird game. But it was, you gotta say, that was a nicely executed build, and Minigun just didn't quite... He definitely wasn't really prepared for how that was going to turn out.
Yeah, it definitely worked out perfectly, but Minigun kind of had build order syndrome. It looked like, at best, I'm still not sure if that was just like he went into the game saying, okay, I'm going to go Colossus, I'm going to go attack him when I get two of them. Or if he saw the Ravens and was like, yeah, he's not going to have any Vikings, I might as well just go attack. But it was either kind of just blindly following a build order, or it was a bad read. But either way, obviously didn't work out.
No, it obviously didn't. Alright, Drunkenboi with the gas coming down right here. And we could very well just see a Reaper play once again, and I'm pretty cool with that on this map, honestly. You get at least a reasonable amount of space to get in. It's not perfect. There are maps where it's much easier to get in with a Reaper, but considering Akelon Wastes isn't exactly that easy either, he was able to get in there without too much of a problem.
Yeah, and the scouting information you get from that is just invaluable with the strength of some of the Protoss all-ins that are hovering around. Minigun, though, not much of an all-in player, particularly not PvT. I don't really think you have to be worried about that, but Reaper opening, Reaper CC, still just a good standard go-to build.
Yeah, it seems like there's very little lost in doing that. The only thing it really does is slows down the tech just a little bit as a result of the expenditure of gas. Thankfully, you don't need the tech lab anymore, so it's a case of, would you have used that 50 gas to get something a little bit earlier? Would that be part of a timing? If not, then why not just be safe?
Yeah, definitely. I'm much more curious to see what Minigun does going forward, because like we said, that definitely looked like a prepared build. But the thing is, it was prepared for Minigun's general go-to normal style, and that style is a pretty solid overall thing. So it's very possible that Minigun went into this series just expecting to do that every game. And Drunkenboi is toying with us.
Yeah, apparently so. If this Drunkenboi was definitely lagging previous game, which it made it pretty weird, but yeah, it looks like he may have lost his internet too. That would be at least half the players of this tournament so far, both the casters. What is up with the internet today? It's beyond ridiculous.
I really don't know. Is it all of BattleNet? Because I haven't seen any other complaints about BattleNet.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. It just could be a weird confluence of circumstance whereby just half the people just happen to be disconnecting for whatever reason. It's DC's from BattleNet. I know the entire Complexity House's internet went down for like 5 minutes, which is really crazy. Your internet went down. My modem burned out, and all sorts of other things happened there. But this is getting pretty ridiculous. We will be resuming from replay, though, as you can very clearly see, because it makes sense not to have these guys replay the first 3 minutes, especially when nothing's really been affected. So we should be able to get back into it relatively quickly. We will F10, we will click quit, and we will get back into the lobby. And, God, this is going to go on all night. I have a very early train on Monday. I had a really bad flight back from LA. It was 5 hours of red-eye misery, whereby we had the most turbulence I've ever had, and a medical emergency 30 minutes after takeoff, where the pilot decided, no, we will not turn around. So we had a woman who was basically having a heart attack in the front row, so that was great. And then after I landed from that, having not had a wink of sleep, being awake for 32 hours, I said to myself, you know what? I like trains. Now, I'm not really all that into this whole flying thing anymore, so why don't I just take the train up to New York, even though it'll take like 14 hours. At least I can work on the train. At least I know that I'm not going to be, you know, blown out of the sky if I happen to be on a train, so that's always nice. But unfortunately, it looks like we'll be going all night here by the looks of it if this keeps going this way.
Well, then you have 14 hours to sleep, so it's perfect.
I'll take that. Wow, 14 hours sleep is a luxury that I am ill-afforded, man. That's okay. We're going to try and resume from replay. Thankfully, the admin during this tournament has become an expert at this.
I just disconnected from the game.
Oh, God damn it.
I'm going to relog.
Okay. Yeah, we lost Minigun as well. So, yeah.
This is getting silly.
This is actually kind of getting silly. I have to wonder if it's game heart. I really do, because I would have expected to hear widespread reports of this, and GSTL uses game heart as well. And
You'd think it would be pretty tested if they're using it.
Yeah, but there was a lot of downtime in GSTL last night, like way more than usual, which makes me think that they might have been masking connection issues there. I should actually ask the guys, but they're currently on a plane, so that's not going to work out. Maybe I can ask Hart. He's still at home, or Scarlet. That should. Although Scarlet actually should be flying over for WCS pretty soon as well. So, well, Hart's going to have to solo GSTL if these guys have to stay there. So I'm sure he'll be fine. He's got loads of different builds.
Is it all kill format?
It is. So
then he's fine.
Yeah, he'll be all right. I think MMA should be back by then, so, you know, they're just double team. It'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
Alright, okay, we're gonna...
I'm back online.
Yeah, I just relogged as well. It's like, let's just all relog for the sake of it. Let's try and clear whatever problem there is here. But, yeah, we'll be back in momentarily, we hope. So, yep, you're in the game. We've got Minigun in the game, waiting for Drunkenboi. Of course, we did lose Drunkenboi entirely there, so it's difficult to know whether or not that was his connection or whether it was something else entirely.
Did he even get into the lobby last time when I disconnected?
I don't think he did. So I think he might very well just straight up offline.
That's lovely.
Yeah, he's offline. He's not showing on my list, and I'm pretty sure I added him as well, so we're gonna have to take another break. Well, we had to beat MLG at a few things, so we picked downtime. I think would have been the easiest one there. So we're doing a pretty good job, I feel, of eclipsing them on that one. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere. I mean, well, you can, because the game probably won't start anyway, but, you know, just kind of hover around the computer, because it might work. We'll be right back. Alright, we're back. Why did we choose to cast Starcraft today? This was a terrible idea, obviously. Okay, well, we're back. Everything seems to be okay from what we can tell. We have all relogged and everything seems to be wonderful. We, once again, must apologize for the downtime. I think we're pretty much losing the European audience right now because it's way, way too late. And I totally understand that. This should have been done by now, but it hasn't. So, welcome back to the game. There was a Reaper. There is still a Reaper. It is sneaking, and he's going to be able to deny the expansion again.
Yeah, he gets a probe kill once again, and that Reaper against Protoss really, honestly, shouldn't get a probe kill, usually, but it just happens to time out that he's getting that expansion probe every single time. And I don't know if he happens to have that timed out, if he's really studied that. The specificity of his build last game suggests that maybe he studied his opponent really, really well and knew exactly what was happening, or maybe it just happens to be working out that way. But either way, it's gone very well for him.
Yeah, I mean, Drunkenboi hasn't really had the opportunity to really show an awful lot in tournaments up to this point, so I've got to imagine that he did prepare something. Minigun's obviously a pretty formidable opponent, and if this is the only tournament that players are focused on, then I think we do see a difference in play caliber versus the people that are focusing on multiple tournaments at once, simply because they don't necessarily have the time to prepare in that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Drunkenboi's still in WCS. I don't believe he is.
Don't think so.
And I'm not sure about Minigun, but I'm almost sure this is all that Drunkenboi has to prepare for, so probably pretty prepared. And it's looking like exact mirror builds thus far from last game, except Drunkenboi's second gas is later. So yeah, it looks like he's probably going for a Widowmine drop instead of the Hellbat build then.
Well, there is a Robo coming up at a pretty good time to actually handle that, and he's going to be able to see that, and I have to wonder if that's going to affect his decision to do it. That said, even with a Robo up, a Widowmine drop can still be effective depending on how many observers are built and where exactly those observers end up going, and there's some neat timings where the first observer comes across the map and then the Widowmine drop ends up behind that. So things work out pretty well there. That Mothership core is, wow, you should give him a job as a goalkeeper. That was fantastic.
Yeah, the Widowmines, if they get in, they get in. And it really takes a lot to completely shut them down. Plus, it's not too big of an investment because with the medevac boost, it's pretty easy to get out anyway.
Yeah.
So given that he knows there's not some kind of super all-in coming, I think this is just an absolutely fine opening. Even if it's not going to do damage, it's not a big investment. It makes his opponent really uncomfortable and defensive. So I think this is going to be fine. And he's actually only going with the one Widowmine. Everything else is the Marines.
That's actually pretty cool. It's good that he's not investing too much in that, and these combo drops are just, I have to imagine, a hell of a lot more awkward to deal with. If there's 4 Widowmines, like, right, okay, there's a certain defense to that. If it's 6 Marines and 1 Widowmine, you're trying to deal with the Marines while the Widowmine just waddles around trying to get into a good position. Focus too much on the Widowmine, you get shut down by the Marines, vice versa. It could be problematic, and that is an armory coming up behind there, so Drunkenboi will be following this up with Hellbats.
Yeah, and that is his bread and butter. That's going to be very hard to deal with for Minigun. And also, these 4 Hellions out in front, they're going to go in at the same time, so this is going to be a really nice multi-pronged attack. And as you said, it's really hard to deal with because you don't split your army up the same way. You usually split it up to deal with certain things. And the Widowmine actually goes down, the probes get away, he gets 3 kills with it, but the Marines on the other end of the mineral line, and Hellions going into the natural at the same time.
This is pretty brutal. This is very brutal indeed. Drunkenboi apparently loves the Hellions and is now just spinning around, dropping all over the place, trying to do as much damage to his probes as possible. Minigun's been able to pull most of them back, and we'll look at the loss after this. His drop's about to be cleaned up by the looks of it. The photon overcharge is in play there. Down goes the drop. Slicey, slicey. The Zealots finally dealt with that. Minigun's so annoyed that he shoots his own pylon. And then we will look at the damage that was done. 20 workers killed by that.
Yeah, he's down to 30 workers. And
the Widowmine's still there, actually, as well.
Oh, then that could be pretty bad. It seems like he knows about it, but he doesn't know the timer on it. So he's leaving his units there, but he is going to get it in time. So that saves him a lot of extra pain. But he is down more than 10 workers, plus the mules. 3rd CC coming up for Drunkenboi. And now the Hellbats are out, which is when the fun really begins.
Indeed. He's going
more Hellions into the natural as well.
Yeah, and the one Stalker's there ready to respond. So getting another couple of probe kills, which is like, well, whatever probe kill you can get, especially if you don't lose the Hellions, is a big deal. And then you've got the Hellbats to contend with. There's barely anything mining in the main base here. This is severely restricting gas income in the main and, most importantly, mineral income. He's just building what he can right now, which is Colossus. And he is way behind now in terms of his economy. Now, what's Drunkenboi's follow-up, I have to wonder? We're seeing more barracks going down. We're seeing more Hellbats being added in. And I have seen this Biobat style be used against Protoss players simply because if they go Zealot heavy, then Hellbats in the composition make it super tough to deal with.
Yeah, if they go Templar tech, then obviously they're going to have lots of Zealots, and then Hellbat plus Bio just absolutely destroys. Against Colossus openings, it's not quite as good, but I think in this situation it's just a matter of it fits better out of his opening. He already opened up the factory tech, and he's already opening up very harass-based, so Hellbats are like an obvious extension of that, so he's just going into that because it's comfortable. And he is so far ahead at this point that anything that's going to allow him to put pressure on his opponent is going to be great, because he's just going to keep him stuck in his base, keep him defending, while he puts up his 3rd base and goes for just as many units of any kind that he can make and just ride his advantage through.
Double Hellbat drop is a possibility here. There are defensive units in place. Minigun was able to shut down a drop attempt in the natural. There is, however, a drop coming in, but Minigun is moving in to engage that and actually shuts down the medevac pretty quickly. Good evacuation here as well. Doesn't really lose all that many probes either. The drop attempt's now going to come in. There is a Colossus ready for that, so Minigun is on top of this now, but if it takes you 29 workers to get on top of it, then that's going to be a problem regardless.
Yeah, like, despite his really good defense, about as good as it could get, he still lost 4 or 5 probes there just in the act of running from the Hellbats. And he did deny it at his natural, but really, a medevac and 2 Hellbats for 4 or 5 probes when you're already at such an economic disadvantage, that's pretty hard to stomach. And just back at home, Drunkenboi is setting himself up. He's already up to 2 starports, and there's no potential for a Templar switch anytime soon, so that's just going to shut down the Colossus. And Minigun really doesn't have much of a fallback. This is a really good timing from him, because this is kind of the only timing he has.
Yeah.
There's going to be lots of Vikings out in the field if he waits any longer, and those Colossus are really all he has going for him. But even then, Drunkenboi's army is just bigger and better already, and with a better economy. It's a really tough situation for Minigun.
Yep, that's certainly the case. There is that 3rd Colossus coming out and a Warp Prism. I think the Warp Prism's a little bit ambitious. Admittedly, it does let him at least warp in units closer, but he doesn't have the economy to warp in harassment units. Unless he has his army together, surely he can't do that.
No, I agree with you there, and it's actually to the point where Drunkenboi is so far ahead that he's moving out just to take this army out in the middle, even though Minigun's the one trying to initiate the attack.
That's the GG right there. I mean, I wouldn't even call that an army as much as a scouting party, really, and it was just completely obliterated. And Drunkenboi is looking ridiculous in this series, I've got to say. You know, we opened up with a really interesting prepared build, and then we saw extremely effective double drop play, combined with a Hellion run by. And that Widowmine did a decent amount, but it was really the Marines and the just regular Hellions that made that an absolute disaster for Minigun.
Yeah, Drunkenboi's just absolutely taken control of everything that's happened in both these games. It looks like Minigun was really just totally confident going in. He was like, I'm going to play my own style, and I'm just going to out-macro him. And Drunkenboi's coming in with really smart builds, and he's just running Minigun ragged, like, in terms of dealing with harassment, and then catching his timings. He just seems much more well-prepared for this than Minigun does.
Alright, well, we will be back in Game 3 very shortly, folks, as quickly as we possibly can. Now, Minigun, of course, gets another map choice, but, you know, that was most likely the map that he was the most comfortable on. That's generally what you end up picking, but he is now going to have to deal with whatever comes his way, and the map choice from Minigun will be Star Station.
Yeah, you're definitely right. If you're down 0-1, you're always going to pick your best map. You don't want to get that 0-2 hole. That's just too hard to come out of. And so this is definitely his fallback of his fallback. So it's not looking particularly good for him.
No.
Those first 2 games were just so demoralizing. Drunkenboi just seemed totally in control the whole time.
It was kind of ridiculous, really. And if it was Drunkenboi, I guess, just going for straight-up Hellbats right out of the gate, then maybe you can say to yourself as a player, yeah, Hellbat drops are tough to deal with. We all know that. If you slip up, you can do a lot of damage. But it was Marine and then that Hellion run-by just being pulled out of position in both respects. And usually that shouldn't work, but it did. And it did way more effectively than I really expected it to.
Yeah, the worst part is Minigun was set up to defend attacks in both areas, but he saw the drop come in. He kind of panicked because it wasn't the Widowmine drop he was expecting. It was the Marines as well. So he pulled his natural army in, and then that left him the natural totally undefended, and that's where the big probe kills came in. And it really just feels like Drunkenboi can kind of make any units he wants, and he's using them very well and making Minigun uncomfortable.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We're going to go straight into this game, folks. I'm not going to waste your time. We have wasted quite enough time already. So let's try and blitz forward. Star Station will be the next in this series. Drunkenboi's managed to make this work with lag, I might add, which is quite impressive.
And this may be the first time in a while we've actually had 2 successful games in a row.
Yes.
That seems to be working.
That would be a curse. I would be very, very careful about that one. We don't want that to happen. Okay, folks, here we go. Star Station, northwest position. It is, in the red trunks, a Protoss by the name of ROOTMinigun versus his opponent to the southeast position in the blue trunks, playing Terran, currently up 2 games in this best of 5 series, making his way potentially through to the round of 4 here, maybe in a clean sweep, which would be very impressive to see. It is FXODrunkenboi.
Yeah, very impressive and very surprising. I know a lot of people, myself included, would have called Minigun a pretty solid favorite in this match. So for Drunkenboi to go through 3-0, especially after 4-0ing his group and beating Ghost User, that would be a pretty incredible run already. And he also probably will get the weakest quarterfinals opponent, the winner of State and Hello Kitty, into the semifinals. So that's an open path to the finals if there's going to be one.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens with that one, because I would certainly call State the stronger player. His performance in Group D was very strong. He took down QXE convincingly. The only reason he dropped a map to QXE was because he went for this silly kind of Oracle coin flippy build that didn't work at all in the first game, and then he solidly dominated QXE across 2 separate games there, and then swept through the rest of his group pretty much uncontested, taking out Xenocide at 2-0. So his PBT is looking really strong right now. Hello Kitty, on the other hand, that you can't predict that. That could be anything. Who knows? So maybe that might be a good option for him, but maybe not. I don't know. This tournament always surprises me. The solid favorites do seem to be losing against players that are really hungry to actually get some recognition.
Hello Kitty can certainly be a dangerous opponent, just dangerous because of his style. And then State is a very good player in his own right. But compared to Kane and Ghost User, I think I'd rather take one of them.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's just when you get these players, like the more unknown players, particularly the Drunken Boys and the Hello Kitties and whatnot, people have played them on the ladder. They know some of their tendencies, but it's not the same as a tournament situation. And I think that's a big reason that you get a lot of upsets in a tournament like this. There's just so many more wild cards than if you have 2 Korean superstars who play each other a lot and have seen each other play a lot and know exactly what kind of circumstances they're going into.
Yeah.
There's just so many more variables.
Yeah, and more to the point, coach play actually gets involved in there as well. And I don't know how the FXO America setup works, but I can't imagine that coaching really plays a big role there.
I would be very surprised if it had much of an impact. We see Drunkenboi opening with Reaper again, and this time actually a little bit of diversity from Minigun. He has three probes on both gas geysers, which definitely says that he's not well, I mean, it's either trickery to scare Drunkenboi and make him think it's going to be attack all in, but it really shouldn't be a fast expansion with 3 probes on both geysers.
Yeah, because that was obviously going to slow the expansion down significantly because those probes are not mining minerals in the way that they should be. That does unlock that tech pretty early, and it does unlock some defensive options as well if you want to go heavy sentry, but like we see less of that now because the Mothership Core exists. You don't necessarily need to rely purely on sentries to be super defensive anymore.
Yeah, the Mothership Core is just so powerful. Like, if you get that Nexus up in the natural, and you get a planetary... I don't know what the spell is actually called. I always just call it Planetary Nexus. But if you get a Planetary Nexus
that
up,
works. It's Photon Overcharge, but that works.
Okay, that's going to hold off pretty much anything the Terran can throw at the natural early on in the game.
That's very true, and here comes that Mothership Core. I'm still intrigued to know what this gas does. The Reaper, of course, is going to scout that again. Now, the key difference this time around is that Drunkenboi did not get 3rd time lucky and did not prevent that Nexus from going down. And he didn't get a probe kill either. So this Minigun seems to have finally got a handle on that.
Yeah, and I was wrong. Minigun did actually put down that Nexus immediately, and Drunkenboi scouts it immediately as well, so there's no trickery. So I'm not really sure what the benefit of that early gas is. We see he's accumulating a decent amount. He's up to almost 250. Puts that robo down pretty quickly. I don't know, that seems unnecessary. Maybe it was just a mistake on his part, or maybe it's something that's going to pay off a little bit later on in the game, having more gas available, a quicker Colossus timing or something of that sort. And he's actually going to deny the scouting, so Drunkenboi may not see that robo. It looks like he will be denied. However, Minigun has played very predictably thus far, and I don't know, Drunkenboi may be comfortable just playing along with that.
Okay, so we're seeing a fairly similar setup this time around by the looks of it in terms of the build order there from Drunkenboi. The Hallucinated Phoenix will scout it, which is always nice. I'm pretty sure we didn't actually see a lot of that from Minigun, and that very well might have given him a nice read there. But we are seeing a lot of Hellions come in. There is a single Widow Mine. There are enough Marines to do that same drop. We could even see the same run by. That's a possibility here, but I'm not entirely convinced that it would work as well on this map.
Yeah, a couple of differences. Well, the natural is obviously much more enclosed. It's very hard to get in there and actually do the damage with the Hellions. And also a couple of little differences. He only has the 1 mine instead of 2, so it would be a riskier version. He wouldn't have the 1 mine home for defense. And also Minigun scouted it with the Hallucinated Phoenix, so he has a much better idea what's going on. But it looks like it is pretty much the same thing coming out. Yep. The Hellions moving into position, the medevac boosting across the map to go into the main. And Minigun... much more focused on the main defense this time. All of his units in the main with just the potential for the Planetary Nexus down at the natural, with a couple of units warping in there. And much more Stalker heavy this time. Last time he had 3. Now he has 4 and a 5th coming on. So it does look like he's preparing for it and trying to adapt to what he saw happen last time.
Yeah, let's see if it works out for him. So we're looking at 4 there, and that big drop coming in. Boost is available, but this time around, he's not going to boost into the mineral line. He's going to place it on the natural ramp, you sneaky little devil.
But there's an observer right there, so as long as he's careful with the stalkers. And he does get... Ooh, takes a little damage on the Mothership Core, but nothing serious.
Well, never mind. It looked clever, but the Observer kind of shut that one down. Never mind.
On the other hand, he lost a Widow Mine, but that's it. So it's not like a huge investment loss. Obviously not as good a position as it was last game,
No.
but not bad by any means.
No, definitely not all in by any stretch of the imagination. Drunkenboi has a look around and says, all right, well, there's a almost full energy Militia Corps and 3 Stalkers. That probably isn't worthwhile. Minigun gets down a nice proxy pylon placement there, although there are 2 Widow Mines and a bunker ready. The Stalker is on its way up with Blink, though. The Stalker count's actually getting pretty high. It's already to 9. We're seeing Blink being researched here.
Yeah, we're seeing Blink research, and we're also seeing no Robo Bay, so he's not going Colossus as he was in previous games. And it definitely looks like putting down those proxy pylons, 2 of them down on the bottom of the map, upgrading Blink that quickly, focusing so much on Stalker production. I think it's definitely going to be not an all-in. Oh, and he gets the
That's
medevac.
lovely.
And that's absolutely huge right now, because that is the one way that Drunkenboi could actually control where Minigun's units are. He needs to leave some units back to defend that if that medevac is still out on the map, but the fact that he killed that means he can now put everything into the attack. He can just go without worrying about anything else. And this is going to be not an all-in, as I said, but a very strong attack, just now putting up a Robo Bay, no third base. He's definitely committed something to this. And if we look at Drunkenboi's defense, it's now 3 Marauders, a Marine, and 2 Widow Mines, plus a bunker.
Things that will not successfully defend this include...
Yes, those are all on that list, and it's not looking too good. He does find the pylon, but now his units are actually going to be caught out on the map. Minigun could have blinked in there and got all those, but he wasn't quite fast enough on the reaction. It's still a very scary army coming in here for Drunkenboi.
It would be miraculous if this was defended properly. It's going to be extremely difficult to do. He even has the blink option up to the high ground thanks to the Observer. Scan actually does go down and will not pick that off. The blink comes in before that, and that's just an overwhelming army, and I don't see a way out of this one for Drunkenboi, quite frankly, unless he gets an amazing Stalker surround it, and even then, that's not going to happen with the blink now becoming available. Micro is in play right now. Drunkenboi's army is taking a big battering. Minigun, of course, can warp in more units. There's a Colossus on the way, 3 more Stalkers being added in here. That single Marauder is doing heroic work down on the bottom there, but this is a lot of damage that's already been inflicted here by Minigun.
Yeah, Drunkenboi realized just a second too late that he had to shoot down that Observer and prevent the blink up in. As it turned out, he got in there, and then that was the end of it. The Widow Mines, the bunkers, totally irrelevant, and not nearly enough units. Minigun just kind of caught him unprepared.
Yep, not even close. And Minigun now with a huge lead, and it's looking very unlikely that we'll see Drunkenboi get out of this. The units just being killed as they spawn, and there's that single tank that is heroically doing nothing whatsoever, and that is most likely going to be a game between these two. And Minigun with a strong counterattack here, and I think he adapted quite nicely to Drunkenboi's style that was very much it did seem to be tailored for him, and he was able to figure it out. He was able to make that work, and now we have Minigun with a score on the board.
Yeah, that certainly was a response to what he saw in the last game. He scouted it, he saw it was going to be the same kind of thing, so he just started adding up the Stalker production, getting that Twilight Council, and skipping the Colossus. And that was a really good on-the-fly kind of thing, and he scouted for it. He didn't just assume, so it was very smart, safe play out of Minigun, and hopefully can continue that going forward.
That would be pretty damn cool. Drunkenboi picks Whirlwind for his next. Here's a big surprise. Neoplanet S is at the back again.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Shouldn't have put that in the pool.
Yeah, not the favorite map of most players. I'm not
Probably
sure how
not.
it works in TVP. I imagine it'd be very difficult for Protoss to actually hold on to a third base while dealing with drops.
Yeah, could very well be that. Well, we're going to see Whirlwind, so nice big map. Could open up to pretty much anything. All spawn positions are, of course, available here, so it's going to be a little bit different to what we've seen there, especially on Star Station, which now uses that cross-spawn position. So I'm intrigued to see what comes out of it. I think, though, we're going to have to see a different style from Drunkenboi. He tried the same trick twice. It worked the first time, didn't the second. And not a terrible bet to make, I think, when you're ahead 2-0.
Yeah, although I was honestly a little bit disappointed because he showed such a creative build in the first game, and then another pretty smart, different build in the second game. I was hoping you would just have something different prepared for every map, but that's pretty difficult to do. And it is a build that has a fallback. Like we saw in his base, he had a ton of production, he had a third CC, he had double upgrades going. It's not an all-in. It's not something he was dependent on. He just happened to get caught by Minigun's attack, and so it looked like an all-in. So that's a pretty reliable thing, and I'm not too disappointed, but I was hoping he would have something cool for every map.
Well, let's see what he's got for Whirlwind. This was his pick. All spawns are, of course, possible, and that means any build is possible. But it does tend to favor the longer macro games, and we have not really had a chance yet to see Drunkenboi actually play that.
I'd be I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we went for a very quick CC on here. He's been opening Reaper expansion every game, but honestly, or obviously not quite as good on this map just because it's 4 positions. You're not going to get that immediate scouting information, and you don't have to worry too much about aggression from your opponent, particularly with the way Minigun's been playing. Fast expansion every game, 0 pressure out of him. I would really like it if Drunkenboi just went CC first this game, try and take advantage of the map and his opponent.
That'd be pretty damn cool. Alright, folks, here we are. We are on Whirlwind, and in the red trunks, we have ROOTMinigun playing Protoss to the northwest versus his opponent in the long by ground cross position. It is FXODrunkenboi in the blue trunks playing Terran.
Cross positions on probably the biggest map in the active pool. Definitely not going to encourage early aggression out of either of these players. And so, again, that would play into Drunkenboi being greedy. Minigun could be greedy as well, but he has been very, very one-dimensional. Every PvT I've seen him play in this tournament has been that Mothership Core expand, and that's about as safe and generic as you can get in PvT right now. So, pretty good chance he's going to stick with that. Obviously, it'd be nice to see him adapt to the map, but that does seem to be his go-to build.
Yeah, and that could be a little bit problematic when you've got someone like Drunkenboi who's very, very clearly... He's going to go gas on... Oh, this is going to be gas first here from Drunkenboi. Alright, okay, funky, funky. I think if you're Drunkenboi and you're actually prepared, then you are in a great position to exploit the fact that your opponent is doing the same thing every game.
Yeah, he's clearly been very prepared for everything Minigun's thrown against him, except for that Blink Stalker. Well, so I guess we shouldn't say very prepared for everything, but the first 2 games he had planned out very, very well. The third one, not so much, didn't work out so well. But as you said, the gas first, so that could lead into a 1-base Widowmine or a 1-base Hellbat drop, either of the two. Maybe something else. It's kind of hard to predict him. Like, first game we saw him go 2 Ravens right off the bat. So anything is possible with him, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a quick Hellbat drop or a quick Widowmine drop with that gas first.
That's definitely a possibility, and he is still at 1 map, so if he wants to do some big 1-base all-in, then we know that he's capable of it, and I'm intrigued to see what happens. Whirlwind is a funky map to do it on, but it's definitely not outside the realms of possibility.
It would certainly fit in with his style, and he does have a game to play with. He can afford to give up 1 more and still be in it with that 2-1 advantage. But an all-in cross-map on Whirlwind, that's about as long as a distance as you can get for SCVs to travel.
Yep, it would take a while, honestly, and the chances of Minigun not seeing it coming are pretty damn minimal, so if he pulls that, it will go down in history for one reason or another.
Personally, what I would like to see him do is just open absolutely normal, and then just do the normal 2-1 bio plus SCV pull timing, because Minigun really just zero variation in his play. He's opening fast at Nexus, he's going straight up to Colossus, and then he's making a decent little army behind it. And I really feel that just kind of generic timing would beat it. But Drunkenboi playing a little bit too diversely for us to see that. He has other things planned, and we do see a Widowmine immediately, and a Starport coming up, so it looks like it should be a Widowmine drop.
Yeah, I wonder how many Widowmines will be involved in this. It could very well be the Full Marine 2 Widowmine drop, which is a nice little variant of it. There will not be 4 Widowmines out by the time a Medevac is out, unless, of course, a reactor appears from the Twisting Ether, which is not going to happen. What I'm hoping not to see, of course, is the same build 3 times in a row, but we already know that the gas went down earlier, so it's definitely a variant. There is no reactor there, so yeah, there's the second Widowmine coming in. Oh, I wonder, he may wait for all 4, you never know.
Could be. With no Reaper and no CC, it's definitely going to come much faster than the previous build, but it's also going to have less support. He doesn't have a reactor to get out the Hellions to run in the front or anything. Yeah. It's very, very much so going to be a dedicated drop, like Widowmine dedicated with some Marines for support. And this is a little bit of an outdated build. It hasn't seen quite as much use recently as the fast expansion builds and the more generic styles. So this may be something that Minigun's unprepared for, but we see already units hovering around his main. Definitely something he could be worried about. And that's actually quite a bit of a commitment, given that he has no scouting out in front of Drunkenboi's base. He has no idea if units could be running across the map. So staying in the main is basically saying, you've been doing drop play. I know that is what you're comfortable with, and I'm willing to bet on that happening again. So he might be pretty prepared for it.
Full Marine 2 Widowmine is on its way, and we'll see what he can do with that. There's various little ways to play this. Some players like to drop 1 Widowmine in each mineral line, depending on, of course, how optimal and how just how close they are and how viable that is. But aside from that, it does give you a reasonable amount of firepower and a reasonable amount of control to allow you to position your Widowmines in such a way that they're not immediately picked off and that they can be the most effective. The downside, of course, is that you're playing a little bit to chance because microwing everything and microwing the Widowmines so that you get an optimal target is extremely difficult. The follow-up here, interestingly enough, is Hellions with Banshee.
Yeah, that's a very strange build. I don't think Banshee gets very much play in TvP anymore, and if he doesn't make this drop do any damage, I don't think that Banshee's going to do very much. If he doesn't get Minigun off balance with this initial aggression, I think the follow-up with the Banshee and the Hellions is just going to be a complete waste. And the medevac has been denied thus far. He does land in there, putting the mine over the ramp again. That didn't work last time, but this time it's a little bit faster, a little bit earlier. I don't see an observer out just yet. Oh, and a big hit on the probes transferring over.
Yeah, we got a couple out there, and the medevac will be able to escape. This Widowmine snuck around, though. It's actually made its way into the main mineral line. This could be a huge connection right here. Off it goes, and that's a big probe hit. And Minigun was too busy distracted with what was going on at the front there to actually be able to pick that up before it did damage. So 7 workers killed there.
Yeah, nice move by Drunkenboi to kind of salvage that, but really Minigun was just totally prepared everywhere.
Yeah.
He handled that about as well as he could. Obviously, seeing that other mine coming around would have been perfect, but you can afford to lose seven probes when the command center is that much slower than your Nexus. You got Chrono Charge going. We see he's already up 7 workers anyway.
Yeah.
So more than fine for him. And Drunkenboi with the 3rd CC coming very quickly, just totally exposed, saying that you're not going to attack me. I'm just going to go ahead and build up behind here. But no eBays, no extra barracks. He's still not in a very good position. That was a big commitment he made to that Widowmine drop, and it did not pay off for sure.
Banshee's now going to try and work its way in, and it can actually do that because the Photon Overcharge did just exhaust itself. I mean, Drunkenboi could actually even try to pick up a sentry or 2. That would be nice, but he seems like he's just being a bit cautious with it. He gets 3 workers. Don't think it's really justified the investment of the Banshee yet, though.
No, not quite yet, especially given how much starport time that's used. Well, I mean, I guess it could have been a Raven for him, but it could have been Vikings, could have been more medevacs, and we do see the Robo-Bay coming up, so those Vikings will need to come into play. But that Banshee's just going to sit up there and continue to harass. I'm sure it will get more probe kills, and eventually it will probably pay for itself. It's just a question of time and the importance of the starport time versus the probe count. And really, I think Minigun's winning out on the trade thus far. And actually, another quick Raven.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, first Raven out. No second one as of yet. Now we see a traditional Hellion drop. And he's going to go right in for it there, but there are already Stalkers prepared for this, so Miniguns are all over this. We'll see how much damage can be done. A couple of good shots could certainly help him out here, but again, it's whether or not the investment's even worthwhile. One more shot, maybe a couple more. The Stalker's not really doing that well, and he actually transitions this over and brings the Banshee in as well, which isn't going to do a damn thing, I don't think, because the Stalker is there to fend that off along with the sentries. It's being annoying, certainly. There's now 16 workers killed, so he is actually working Minigun pretty well and reducing his economic output, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, I think he just gave up on that medevac, and unless Minigun just didn't notice it was there, it was done for. He probably should have gone into the natural and just suicided on a few more probes. Because when we look at the worker count, they've actually equalized now, and Drunkenboi has a 3rd orbital of running mules. So economically, Drunkenboi has somehow turned this around. But if we look at the armies, that's where it gets kind of scary for Drunkenboi. It's just a matter of him holding off for long enough for his economy to turn into production. Yeah. And given that it is cross-map on Whirlwind, I think he actually has a pretty good chance of doing that. So somehow or another, this has turned out quite well for him. It didn't look like it from the start, but it has.
Yeah, he's doing a good job at picking away at his opponent there. He's also being pretty patient with it, even though he's applying a lot of aggression. This Banshee is a great example of something that's been used a little bit over the course of a few minutes. It's killed 4 probes so far, which is okay, but it's not great. But as you accurately pointed out, Drunkenboi's army is next to non-existent, and he does need to get that rolling, but he is now. He's getting 4 Marines, 3 Marauders out at a time. He finally has got that production rolling pretty well. Banshee attempts to do damage and at least picks off the probe and doesn't die as well, so it's still there as a threat, keeping them back. And then we're going to get a double drop into the base here, which is maybe going to get... No, it's not going to get spotted by Minigun's pylons there. So Drunkenboi now arcing around and looking to find a good place. The pylon spread actually in Minigun's base is great for early warning.
Yeah, this drop is... I love that he has the confidence to actually pick up pretty much his entire army at this point in the game and just go into his base and get aggressive with it. But it's not going to work. There's no distraction. There's nothing to actually say that this is going to be a smart move. What he should have done is just wait for any sign of a move out, just keep it outside of his base, and then as soon as the army moves out, then he goes in. But as is, like, what else is Minigun's army going to be doing? It's going to sit there defending. So of course it's not really going to work out.
The Drunkenboi fired a Seeker missile at something. I didn't seem to actually do anything, though. Maybe he aimed it at an Observer, which would have been really weird. Trying to deny that, and the Banshee's going to finally die after getting 5 kills and being an annoying pain in the arse for the last 10 minutes. So I guess it kind of paid for itself in terms of mental anguish factor.
Yeah, Banshee's always just so annoying. Even if you deal with them, it almost never feels like it was cost efficient, much along the lines of the Hellbat drops. And they both end up getting their third bases. Drunkenboi is obviously finished and floated over, lands around the time the Nexus starts for Minigun. So faster, but that's not really too much of a disadvantage. Terran usually gets their expansions faster.
Yeah.
And 1 medevac goes down.
Yeah, not great response time from Drunkenboi there, honestly. He was able to pick up, but he did lose half of that. That shouldn't really happen. Nice scan to eliminate the Observer, so there's only 1 on the map right now, which is always great. It's a great position for a Terran to be in when there's barely any vision. I mean, Minigun sees nothing right now.
Yeah, he's very much so playing on the back foot. But he is getting into the position where he's kind of comfortable. The first 2 games, he was playing very, very aggressive. He was moving out with just 1 or 2 Colossus, which is very strange because in all the other PvTs I've seen of him, it seems like he much prefers to sit back and play defensively with those Colossus and get up to Templar tech. So now it seems like he's getting more into his comfort zone. This definitely looks like the kind of game that we've seen him play in the past. But it looks like Drunkenboi is going to move out and try and attack, maybe take that away from him. But he doesn't even have a single medevac with the army, and just a couple of Vikings, so those Colossus would just absolutely destroy him in a straight-up battle.
I can't imagine that he's going to try and make this engagement. Even it's strange. It's almost like he's menacing it. I mean, he drew the Zealot back. He was kiting it around for whatever reason. He does have a scary number of Marauders. I mean, I think that's probably the only thing that I could really say about this army. It is 1-1. It has a scary number of Marauders. He's pushing out around the time when he would have Infantry Weapon 2, but he doesn't have it yet. And Infantry 2 is about to finish for Protoss and Infantry Ground Armor. So this is probably one of the worst times that I could say to push out, really, and he's got to get a good engagement to make this work.
Templar come in, and that could feed back the... Oh, he gets the PDD down first, but this is still just so much AoE damage from Minigun and not enough Vikings. He has to retreat.
Yeah, this is not going to work out so well for him at all. Thankfully, the Marauders can tank a lot of that, but he has no means to repair it, so he isn't going to be able to heal that. He just has to leave right now. It was a weird poke. I mean, it came in before +1 as well, which is really strange in my opinion. With +2, in fact.
Very, very strange. No SCV pull, so it's not like he was all-inning at that point. 0 medevacs, so there's no sustain to it. It didn't really make sense. I'm not sure what triggered him to go for that. And at the same time, Minigun now has a forward pylon just constantly warping in Zealots to harass that third base. And he is getting up towards the high-tech army. He has Archons in there, he has Colossus, he has Templar tech available, and as you said, the 2-2 upgrades. And this is when the Protoss army starts to get scary. If he establishes a 4th base, that could be the end of Drunkenboi. Especially given...
Sorry, go ahead.
Given that he wasted so much on that attack, there's no way he's going to be able to pressure anything that Minigun does at this point.
No, I don't think so. Minigun has decided after posturing that, now would be a good time to try and get a 4th base up, and Drunkenboi is trying to do the same thing as well. Upgrades have now equalized quite nicely. Of course, that will always result in the Protoss player having higher upgrades because Chrono Boost exists, so there will be a window there, depending on how much Chrono Boost he wants to invest in it. Psystorm is on the way, though. Templar on the way, and we're seeing that nice big Tier 3 composition from the Protoss player where he mixes in some Templar, he mixes in some Colossus, and he picks the kind of mix of composition that he's looking for. Now, what I'm really interested to see here, because this is something that I haven't seen from Drunkenboi yet, is how good is he with Ghosts? The Templar versus Ghost war is something that I feel is, maybe you can correct me on this, I think it's more difficult for the Terran player than it is for the Protoss.
I would agree. It definitely seems like it's not a matchup I play at high level on either side, so it's not like a professional opinion, but it definitely does seem like the Templar are the easier to use and potentially the more effective.
Yeah.
However, if you get one good EMP on the group of Templar and you have enough Vikings for the Colossus, then you can just absolutely obliterate a max Protoss army with very few losses. It's very much so a control-centric battle. I do feel that the late game edge goes to Protoss, just because with the ability to warp in, they can have essentially a 220, 240 supply army, and also the ability to bounce back and forth between Colossus and Templar more quickly. But if you're a Terran with impeccable control, it can be nearly unbeatable in late game. So a lot of it's going to come down to Drunkenboi's positioning and Ghost usage here.
I've got to ask, do you think that Minigun's decision to hang back and allow Drunkenboi to max out was actually a mistake on his part?
He definitely had a window after that attack came in at 12 o'clock, but here it looks like Drunkenboi is actually going to go in. Kind of, maybe.
Blink comes along, doing a little bit of damage to the Vikings. We're not going to see him coming down. Storm actually lands. Where that Templar came from, I have no idea. It must have been hidden in the palm trees or something like that. So, and that did significant damage, and due to the fairly low medevac count, a defensive Storm goes down right there. Snipe goes off as well. This is a pretty damn good defense from Minigun so far.
Yeah, Drunkenboi has been running on one starboard the entire game, just now getting a second one up, so not enough Vikings, not enough medevacs. His army is very squishy, and with 5 Colossus out, that's going to be really hard to deal with.
That was weird. Picked up 4 Marauders and they just died pretty much instantly in a medevac, so that was definitely not a flight they wanted to take. And Minigun takes a great engagement and actually takes the supply lead over Drunkenboi, who is now scuttering back home with only 3 medevacs and very injured troops.
The lack of medevacs is really just destroying him. Every time a storm hits, that's essentially, you know, a good chunk of his army. A good chunk of his army HP is gone.
Yes.
Because he cannot heal that at the rate that Terran really is supposed to be able to do. He just doesn't have as many medevacs as he's supposed to. And a Warp Prism coming into the main, completely undefended from Drunkenboi. That's going to be really, really hard to deal with. And I imagine at the same time, Minigun has to go in at 6 o'clock and kill that as he deals with the Warp in.
Yeah, that would be good. We actually did, for some reason, we're seeing a double drop from Drunkenboi that I believe passed the Warp Prism. I guess he didn't notice, or maybe it was out of visibility range. But the Warpin comes in right now, and of course these are 3-3 Zealots, which are always going to be good pretty much in every possible scenario here. A Ghost went down to that as well. I mean, even picking off the Ghost made that worth it, in my opinion. And the Tech Lab has taken some damage. It may burn down if he leaves it alone. The drop comes in here, which seems to have been spotted because Minigun pulls his entire army back and doesn't actually get to hit that 6 o'clock position. So in reality, the drop didn't do that much.
I feel that was kind of mismanaged by Minigun, honestly, because like he does deny that drop, but he pulled his entire army back to do so, which is pretty inefficient.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he ran his Warp Prism right into the main, so it was spotted instantly, killed off with the Vikings instantly. If he had sat on the edge and warped in more Zealots, he might have done more. But as is, he kind of threw away that little timing where he had an advantage because of the initial battles.
This is a dangerous position for his Colossus to be in, I feel, simply because there's so little in terms of the actual anti-air. The Vikings could dart in and dart out, but Drunkenboi didn't seem to be able to take advantage of that. Minigun still with a slightly smaller army here than his opponent. In fact, Drunkenboi has less workers there. The Ghost count is ridiculous. Like, this is Thorzane level of ridiculous. This is 16.
More and more Terrans are just heading towards mass Ghosts late game, just because the strength of EMP, obviously. But he's being really, really sloppy with his Ghost.
Good.
Every time he goes in, he loses a handful of Ghosts. Huge storms,
see
too.
that? That was insane. The number of Ghosts that went down there, combo Storm and the AoE. Now, as we look into this engagement, I'll talk a little bit about the point that I want to raise about this after that, but let's see if he can actually defend here. He is being menaced. He's taking a lot of damage. Minigun's maxed out, and Drunkenboi most assuredly isn't. He threw away a lot of Ghosts there for no real reason. Storm comes down defensively to deal with this drop here that will be cleaned up by that single Zealot. What a hero he is. Only a little bit of damage done there by Drunkenboi's drops, and the harassment potential here from Drunkenboi is limited because he has to deal with this gigantic ball of death that is rolling down his natural.
Yeah, so much damage coming out of Minigun. He just has to make sure he takes a good engagement. Big EMPs, though. That hits, like, the entire thing. Minigun's entire army is clumped, so that's one big thing. But Storms on Drunken... Oh, wow.
That's not going to last long. That is nasty to watch, and the Terran player just gets utterly obliterated. And this might very well be game coming in here as Minigun makes his way through to the 4th base. He'll be taking that out quite easily, and Drunkenboi is relying... He actually has almost more Ghosts than Marines, which is a very strange position to be in. And now he's going to try and engage as best he can. There's still a Colossus. It gets EMP'd. It may eventually be taken down here, but it's still firing. That's messy. And Drunkenboi is plummeting in supply right now as Minigun patiently gets the right kind of composition and takes him to pieces.
Yeah, Minigun didn't even really need a composition in that battle. Everything was the Storms. They just killed everything by themselves, and everything else was just to clean up. And no Observer, so the Ghosts are going to be annoying here. And he's honestly cleaned up this army much better than I expected after that initial engagement.
Yeah.
But still, losing a command center, losing all the SCVs he had there, not looking good at all.
GG. And we have, once again, a tie, which means that the final deathmatch will, of course, be done on Neoplanet S, which I'm sure they're both really looking forward to. Now, there was a point I wanted to raise, and I'd like to hear your opinion on it. And I was watching the GSTL last week, and it was Axiom Acer versus Prime. And the final match was Crank versus Bia. Now, Beyond was playing a really good game. Crank was playing very defensively. He was behind at times. And he started building up that big tier 3 composition. And Beyond started creating the counter composition. However, in the final engagement, what we ended up seeing was, as a result of a large amount of both Ghosts and Vikings, the actual army from Beyond wasn't really that scary, and as a result, the Vikings were easily caught out and stormed, and then Beyond just didn't have enough firepower to actually kill the Protoss army. And this is not the first time I've seen this from Terran players either. Do you feel that some Terran players might very well be overcommitting to specialist units in the late game versus Protoss?
I think it's just actually a very difficult situation in general for Terran. I've talked to a couple of good Terrans, some Terrans who play on Korea and whatnot, and they say that TVP metagame right now is kind of just focused on denying that 4th base, even to the extent of SCV all-inning whenever you see an opportunity. Very much so an attack early, an attack often kind of play.
Yeah.
And so that says to me that the 4 gas, the late game heavy tech army is just so hard to counter efficiently that's really the problem there. You have 2 options. You either kill them early or you end up sacking all your SCVs, so your army is actually like 50 supply bigger than theirs, and then you hope that that one army is going to win because you're not going to have much income behind it. But it really just feels like a tough situation for Terran that there isn't a great answer to besides having impeccable control and finding really good engagements.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds about right, really. It's simply a case of saying that I need these units, and I also need these units, but I also need guns, and I don't have any. This is a really awkward spot. Why can't I have 300 supply? That would be wonderful. But Neoplanet S. I think if there's any map where Drunkenboi can bust out something... We just lost the admin. That's actually problematic. Yeah,
he was the last person who hadn't disconnected.
Yeah, that was we've got the full set now. That's great. Anyway, it seems to me like if there was any map where Drunkenboi could now bust out the style that I don't even know if we've come to expect because we haven't really seen it in this tournament at all. But we have known him for this. We have seen him play really aggressive, big 1 or 2 base all in. Neoplanet S is a perfect map to do that on, surely.
It absolutely is. I don't know. He hasn't done an all-in yet. He apparently didn't all-in at all in his group stages. Maybe that's just something he saves for latter games in Mia. Honestly, don't know. But if we're going to see it from him, this map makes sense. The problem is it is 2-2. This is one of the biggest matches of his career, honestly, as a new player. And so to put everything on the line with an all-in in that kind of situation, that takes a lot of guts. And it's honestly a pretty hard thing to do. As easy as cheese can be, as much as it can get you a free win, that's also putting your tournament life on the line with something that's not entirely skill-based. There's a little element of luck there. And he does seem like the kind of player who would be okay with that. He is a pretty cheesy player on ladder, at least. He's used to taking those risks. But it's a hard risk to take.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. We're going to go into this one once again, and we're hopefully going to actually make that work. Oh, man. This has been a good series so far. It's been a good... I think it's been a really, really good showcase of Drunkenboi's intelligence and Drunkenboi's actual builds, but the last game was definitely not a good showcase of his control.
Or it might have been a very accurate showcase of his control, and that's why we see a lot of the builds coming out of him. But you're right, those first 2 games were just absolutely impeccably planned, and he executed them perfectly, and Minigun played right into him. But the 3rd game, we saw a great counter build from Minigun. He scouted exactly what was going on and dealt with it perfectly. And then the 4th game, we saw Minigun's bread and butter, that defensive, very passive, just absorb everything and then have a super army. And I don't know, Drunkenboi's control just wasn't up to par, and he made a couple of really questionable timing decisions.
Yeah, I think so. It was very strange to roll out with what he had, and even before +2. I mean, even if he had +2, that timing doesn't make any sense at all to me. I don't know what he was really aiming to achieve.
Because he opened with such a tech harass-based build, he didn't have an upgrade-based timing. That was never going to happen for him because his upgrades were so delayed. Yeah. Unless he did a lot of damage to his opponent, of course. And so to move out without any medevacs, without many Vikings, without a whole lot of utility to his army, very, very strange decision. Not explicable at all to me.
No, but I don't know. It's odd. He seems to be a player of 2 halves, really. He makes really smart decisions, and then every now and again he'll do something which just makes me scratch my head a little bit. And I'm thinking, am I just so bad that I can't see how high level this is? Or is he actually just making a mistake?
No, that attack on 12 o'clock last time, that was definitely not... There was no greater purpose or meaning to that. It was just kind of a mistake and a questionable decision.
All right. Okay, here we are, folks. Neoplanet S is the place to be, and ROOTMinigun is here in the Red Trunks, playing Protoss to the northeast position. He is currently tied 2 games apiece against FXODrunkenboi in the Blue Trunks, playing Terran to the southwest. Now, we could have very well seen a 3-0 sweep there, but Minigun has pulled it back quite nicely, showing his experience and patience. And now Drunkenboi is left with one map, and it's a map that he has not picked up to this point, which makes me think, of course, that he can't really have prepared anything in particular for it, but can he pull something that he's practiced on ladder against Minigun? Can he finish it out? Does he even want to try and finish it with a quick 1 or 2 base all-in, or will he try and play for the longer game once again? And you mentioned earlier the metagame right now in TVP is to deny the 4th. Well, I don't think that's really a problem on a map like this. Even getting up your 3rd can be a little bit of a struggle here. I have to wonder if that's how Drunkenboi will play.
I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw a big 2-base Colossus essentially all in from Minigun, because the bases are actually so hard to hold on here, even the 3rd base. And we've actually seen 2 builds kind of like that from Minigun thus far. The first 2 games, he went for Colossus timings in both of them. However, he also got set back pretty far, and so it was a response to an uncomfortable situation. But I think that would make a lot of sense to me. We've seen all games thus far. Drunkenboi is very, very vulnerable back at home. He relies on aggression to keep his opponent in his base. And if Minigun recognizes that and just waves away all the early aggression as he has the last 2 games, if he can just stay comfortable with that and then turn that into a 2-base all-in, I think that would be the most effective thing for him to do, and it would make the most sense against Drunkenboi's style. And from Drunkenboi, I'm not really sure what we should see him do, because honestly, it didn't look like he was particularly comfortable in a macro game last game. And if Minigun is smart and does just sit on 2 bases and doesn't try and overextend himself, I'm not really sure if Drunkenboi is going to be able to make any kind of aggression work.
Well, we're going to see a Reaper opening. I guess there's nothing really to read into that, but like the barracks placement is a bit weird. I mean, generally speaking, you try to put it at the edge, right?
Right. Generally, you either try and put it in the wall in or out on the edge. I believe the only explanation I can think of for that is that he's then going to put up his tech over there, and he wants an add-on available that's a little bit more hidden. It's a little bit further back in the base. In several of the games thus far, we've seen Minigun try and scout with a mothership core. You can actually deny that because it's so slow moving. So if he's going to go like Banshee and he wants a tech lab for it from the barracks, then that makes sense because then it's hidden. Or if he's going to put a reactor on a factory for a Hellbat drop, something like that. So it may point towards some kind of early mid-game tech that he's going to hide. And we do see a reactor coming up immediately, but that's totally normal. You just do that to get your marine production out.
Yeah, that's as standard a build as I've ever seen. And Minigun this time around has only got 2 in gas, which is the much more standard way of playing Protoss these days. The 3 in gas, as you pointed out in the previous game, didn't really seem to make a huge amount of sense. Minigun is looking to try and intercept this, but, well, he's not going to be in too much luck. But with the Mothership Core out, he will force the Reaper to leave. The Reaper does its job, gets the scouting information. Minigun would love to try for that interception and actually kill the Reaper, which would be huge, but that's not going to happen. And it will be a constant annoyance until it eventually gets shut down by Stalkers.
Yep, and we will see a Nexus coming down in a second here. He's not able to deny it this game as he had the last couple.
Yep.
But again, that's not really supposed to happen, so it's not too surprising. Command Center coming down from Drunkenboi as well as a bunker. He has to put down that bunker as he didn't see the Nexus. He doesn't know exactly what Minigun's doing. So just playing a little bit safe there. That also could say we do see a very fast second gas from Drunkenboi, and his Marines are positioned to deny that Mothership Core. So I definitely think he's going to be doing something a little bit cheesy. Maybe a Hellbat drop, maybe something else, but definitely trying to deny scouting and playing a little bit safe. Mothership Core actually beats 2 Marines. I did not know that.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't beat 3, I don't think, but it will definitely beat 2. So that's still driven back. I mean, he achieved what he needed to in the sense that this tech that is tucked away here, this factory, which is going to be, there's going to be a tech lab on the factory here. Okay. Could be for a swap around.
Yeah, almost definitely, I would imagine. I'd be very surprised if we started producing tanks out of that. But it could be another quick Raven. He's done that twice so far. It could be for a quick Banshee. He's also done that as well. Have to just wait and see. Continued Marine production out, and yeah, he is definitely going to switch it. We don't see any armory or anything like that yet, so obviously not going to be a Hellbat drop. Just basically just have to wait and see if it's going to be Raven or Banshee.
Alright, well, swap over is coming in. I wonder if he will use this factory for anything. It certainly wouldn't be bad to see some Widow Mines out of that, even without an actual add-on on it. It's nice to just be able to trickle out one at a time. It's going to be that Raven again.
It is a Raven, and we see an engineering bay. This, I believe, is an absolute mirror of the build he did the first game on Acheron Flats.
I think so.
And we saw how well that worked out. And interestingly enough, like I said, I think a 2-base Colossus All-In would be quite good for Minigun. That's essentially what he did in that first game, and this build just absolutely destroyed it.
Yeah.
So Drunkenboi may be counting on a 2-base Colossus All-In coming in, and this build seems like it would be quite good against that. So that may be what's developing here. But we haven't seen a Robo Bay just yet, so Minigun not necessarily going Colossus yet.
Well, there
Actually,
it is.
there he goes.
Yep, Robobay just behind that. As the Reaper keeps trying to get in there, it seems very unlikely to be able to scout that. It would require a slipper from Minigun to allow that to happen. But if this does play out this way, and if Drunkenboi has read this properly, I don't know, there's no second Raven coming down yet, but we should bear in mind, of course, the amount of gas required for that. Now, he's only built one Raven, and now he's actually building Medevac, so this is now a different build entirely. I don't think without this, I don't think if you have these... If you only have one Raven, without the second Raven, that would work as well, because PDDs do go down pretty quickly. If you've got 3 or 4 of them, then of course that becomes a real problem. It also zones your opponent because you can't really fight under them. But I'm intrigued to see where this goes from here.
Yeah, it'll have to serve much more of a support role. And there it was just an absolute game changer because he was very stalker heavy, and the stalkers couldn't do anything. But this, with probably just one PDD, it's not really going to have quite as much of an effect on it. It will still help him shoot down observers, and it may also have the counter psychology effect. He sees the Raven, he assumes it's going to be the same build, so it could be that, but not going to be the same thing. And Minigun going for those very quick double upgrades, so this could actually transition into a bigger, later upgraded Colossus All-In, and that would be much more powerful here. Before he came out with just like a handful of units, no upgrades, very small, fast, but very small army, and that just got absolutely destroyed. So, and no third command center, so both are playing very 2-base heavy, both very scared to try and take a third base on this map.
Well, the Raven does allow him to scout but not kill the observer unless he wishes to use a Hunter-Seeker on it, which would be very silly. I haven't seen it happen once or twice, but it is not a good use of Raven energy in my opinion. Minigun is now rolling around the side here. He will be able to see whether or not there's been a third taken there, and he may also place a proxy pylon. Twilight Council comes down at the appropriate time for 2-2 upgrades.
Yes, it does. So it's looking like it's probably... Yeah, more gateways coming down as well. So it's looking like it'll probably be the very, very big, heavy 2-2 Colossus All-In. And I don't know. I think that's going to work quite well. Drunkenboi is producing a bunch of Vikings, but it's just a very powerful build, and particularly on a map like this. But we don't see a third CC coming up yet, so if Drunkenboi doesn't overextend himself, he may be able to hold on to it. This is a build we don't see too much anymore. It was very popular. I remember Squirtle running his way through IPL 3, doing this build pretty much every time. It was incredibly popular around then. Fallen out of popularity a little bit, but again, I said going into this, I feel like a 2-base Colossus All-In is going to be quite powerful here on this map in this situation. It looks like Drunkenboi's actually going to go for an attack. He's pulling some SCVs, and he's killed the Observer, so Minigun won't necessarily know what's coming.
Alright, well, let's see. Upgrades-wise, he's currently on 1-0, and he is up against 1-1. 2-2 will definitely not finish by the time that this gets there. Blink won't be done either. The Colossus count is going to be at 3, though. Viking count is currently at 4, and there's only 2 medevacs. This is still a pretty difficult attack to make.
Yeah, there's 6 gateways in production, or 6 gateways out on the field too. That means he can put down a ton of units. PDD goes down kind of far away. He can just back off, and his stalkers will
He can get a second one if he's careful. Oh, did he get the second one? He didn't get the second one down before his energy came in and lost the Raven. That was a bit of a mistake. Drunkenboi backs off a little bit there to try and engage. Trying to take the Colossus down. I've got to say, Drunkenboi is engaging pretty damn well here for what he's got, but now that the Vikings are down and the Colossus is still alive with the Nexus Cannon in play, that was held by Minigun.
Drunkenboi made a lot of a really bad situation, but I really disagree with that attack. He was attacking into 3 Colossus with 4 Vikings under a planetary nexus plus support units. I don't know. I don't see that ever working out. It really felt like Drunkenboi had just gone into this planning to do a timing. He had that timing and he didn't. He had that timing and he did it. He didn't take into account what Minigun was doing.
Yeah.
That was just a really poor decision. His opponent was building up for a 2-base all-in and he attacked into him. That's the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah, and there were a few little control mistakes there as well, I've got to say. Not getting that second PDD down was, waited a couple more seconds and actually gone in for it. It wouldn't have made a difference, but it would have allowed the second PDD to go down. So a bit of miscontrol on the Raven. That could have made a significant difference, with the Stalkers then not able to contribute to the fight, really. The Vikings would have stayed alive longer, which meant the Colossus may have died. But shoulda, woulda, coulda. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, Drunkenboi is now behind, and the SCV count versus the probe count of his opponent is pretty damn low, and he's not able to... There's more SCVs coming off the line as well. Drunkenboi's going for a second all-in behind this now, and... Well, it's going to be the same kind of situation. There's going to be 3 Colossus. There's going to be no Raven this time, so the Stalkers are going to be much, much more effective. 2-2 is about to finish for Minigun. I don't see this working.
Nope, even a couple of cannons coming down. The only difference is I don't believe there's a mothership core out, so no planetary nexus, but the unit count is even bigger in Minigun's favor than it was going into the previous battle. And without the Raven, like you said, the Stalkers are going to take down the Vikings even faster. The Colossus are just going to destroy everything. 2-2 upgrades as well. It's looking pretty abysmal for Drunkenboi.
Yeah, charging into that just seems like suicide. You're just running into the valley where you see a cannon to the left and cannon to the right. It's not a very good idea, and I think Drunkenboi knows this, but he's now going to take this fight. The blink comes in under this, and the 3 Colossus are just cutting their way through this army. The chargeless are in effect as well with the +2/+2 upgrades. That is just not working out for him at all. He's going to lose yet another medevac as well. Bad engagement there by Drunkenboi. Minigun takes that nicely, keeps most of his Colossus alive. He loses 1, but that's pretty decent. And now we're going to have to see an attempted expansion here from Drunkenboi on 38 SCVs. Not an ideal position to be in.
Find it very funny that he actually put up that 3rd CC and he's going to take it, because he was in a pretty much unwinnable situation after that first all-in. And then he seems to recognize that. He seems to pull for a second all-in, which is his best hope. But then to actually put down a 3rd CC and continue to expand behind it, I find very kind of funny and nonsensical. It felt like he really should have just committed to that, because at this point, he's just so far behind. And Minigun's actually going to play it out safe, put up the Templar Archives, and go into the late game where there's absolutely no way he'll lose. But if Minigun wanted to attack now, he could, and he would win.
Yeah. With the upgraded advantage in place, certainly. Even this harassment is going to be easily shut down just because that... Oh, the medevac goes down as well. Yeah, that's nasty. I mean, you've got blink and charge available here for Minigun. Minigun gets supply blocked quite significantly, actually. He's going to be supply blocked for another 30 seconds, but he's going to fix that up. That's not really a big advantage that the Drunkenboi can actually utilize. And with the 3rd orbital down, at least he's able to ramp up his production a little bit, but... Everything's behind. There's no sign of Drunkenboi going 2-2. He only just starts his armory right now as 3-3 begins for the Protoss player.
Yeah, it's still only on the 1 starport, and with that many Colossus out in the field, he has to focus purely on Viking production. But he lost his last medevac on that harassment. He has no medevacs. His army is sitting there at less than perfect health, which is a situation Terran should never... And here come the... Oh, he's thinking about it.
Is he...
There go the SCVs. Oh, no, it's harassment.
No.
I thought he was going to pull for another all-in. I was getting excited.
It's like, yeah, the grand 3rd all-in. If first you don't succeed, try again, which would absolutely not have worked under any circumstances, I feel.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think Minigun's coming in right now, so if Drunkenboi is able to miraculously hold this with, like, 1 medevac, I will be very surprised. But Minigun is looking to go in for the kill now. The scan confirms that. Drunkenboi's heart is sinking, saying, oh, well, how did that all go wrong? We started off so well in this series, but Minigun was able to pull it back not once, not twice, but 3 times. Here it comes. Let's see if Drunkenboi can somehow pull this off. The likelihood of that is extremely low.
Chargelets, Archons, 4 Colossus, all in the mix. He's going to have a couple of time stops as well, making more Archons just to add insult to injury. Almost no way. Warp in at the same time, harassing him and pulling his army out of position, so Minigun knows exactly where he is and exactly how to take advantage of this. And Drunkenboi is just going to get absolutely massacred here.
I feel that will be the case, unless Minigun somehow throws away all of his Colossus, which is looking like it's not going to happen. The Time Warp is put down on the ramp there. There's a single Marine working away on the Assimilator over there, which is probably the best place he could be right now. He definitely doesn't want to be in that army, because he will die very, very quickly. A quick stim here by Drunkenboi is able to pick off a few Stalkers, and the Chargeless will then shut that down and now try to make their way up the ramp. Drunkenboi holding a decent defensible position here, but highly outnumbered, certainly outgunned.
Interesting play from Drunkenboi to try and run around the back and pick off the Colossus and just try and pull Minigun in every which way. This is the best attempt he could make, but
that's it.
It's a matter of numbers.
Yeah. And there's the GG, and Drunkenboi sadly will not be participating anymore in this tournament, but Minigun is able to make the 3-game comeback and puts himself in there as the second Root player to advance, avenging Puck in a convincing style. I mean, certainly game 1 and 2 was very shaky for Minigun, but he got into his comfort zone, and Drunkenboi was simply not able to dislodge him from that point.
very impressive mental games from a Minigun to be behind like that against an opponent who's playing very weird, very designed builds, to actually just have the tenacity to hold on and pull it back 3 games in a row. Really impressive from him. And he adapted along the way. He responded very intelligently to what his opponent was doing. And I was worried he wasn't going to after those first 2 kind of bland, uninspiring games.
Yeah, I certainly think so. Nicely played. Very, very nicely played by Minigun. So he advances, and we are very, very slowly getting to the end of the round of 8. We should have been done like 3 hours ago, but as you're well aware, there have been problems. But thank you to the 20,000 people that are currently watching right now. Very surprising, considering the Europeans will have gone to bed now. So that's a really good turnout. So thank you very much for supporting the North American StarCraft scene, guys. You are fantastic. We have one more series for you. And if you wanted an interesting game, I think you would invite Hello Kitty to that, and you would then throw him into a PvP best of 5 against State. That's what's going to happen. It could be really weird. I really hope that it is, honestly. I really do. That would be a nice way to cap the night off. And I could not tell you who's going to win from this. Absolutely not. But he will be facing Minigun. So that is going to be a PvP in the round of 4 there, interestingly enough. And Protoss are kind of dropping like flies now, unfortunately. But that also means that there will be a guaranteed Protoss player in the finals.
Yeah, a guaranteed PBZ in the finals, actually, given that we have 2 Zergs on the other end.
We do. Yeah, that's very, very true. Sorry, Terran. Unfortunately, today was not your day. Oh, well. State versus Hello Kitty is coming up right after this break, folks. Don't go anywhere.